My name's Caitlin. I am an accredited mental health social worker, and I have a business called Cathartic Collaborations, and I work with neurodivergent folks to support them mainly with their mental health. And I am also a PhD candidate, and I am researching autistic mental health care. I came into this sort of work because I was really passionate about social justice, and I wasn't originally intending to work with neurodivergent folks, but that's just kind of where I've been led to. So it's actually quite interesting. I went through this massive burnout after being an employee for a few years. I started my business and I started working with some autistic folks and ADHDers, and I'm like, oh, I seem to really vibe with these clients. And myself and one of my friends, we completed some training around autism and assessment, all this kind of thing. And there was this video. In the video, there was 3 children, and one of them was a young girl. There was this narration over the top of this internal experience of these children, and we were listening to this internal monologue of this girl, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm autistic. Because I'm like, they're describing me, that's me, and that's me when I was young. And so my friend went and got an assessment, and then I did. If it wasn't for that training, maybe I still wouldn't know. I was 30 when I was diagnosed. I did take a lot of time after I was diagnosed to get to know my brain and get to know my neurotype, and to be more accepting and embracing of these different aspects of myself. So I guess what I love about my brain, and I think this is similar for a lot of autistic folks, is that systemic lens, looking at things in that way. And as a social worker, it's absolutely perfect. So if anyone's looking for a career and they're autistic, that might be one to consider. But just having this alternative perspective, in a meeting with people, and you just kind of come left of field and be like, hey, have you thought about this? And I think in the past, I would perceive that and go, oh my gosh, I'm so weird and no one else thought of that. But now I'm like, oh, that's really great. That's something that can add value. And, if we all thought the same, I think that'd be pretty boring. As we come to accept different neurotypes and different ways of viewing things, it can be really rich. I guess I am really privileged in the sense that I had the resources to be able to start my own business. I work from home a lot. I can create my agendas and what I do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. I have a lot of autonomy around that. But for me, working in traditional employment was something that was really challenging for me, because, you don't get to have a lot of autonomy over those things, and you may be expected to work at a pace that might not fit with your needs. But to be honest, just going outside, going to the shops, just the sensory overwhelm, particularly I live in Brisbane city. I forget how autistic I am. And then I, have a social interaction, or I go outside and oh yeah, that's right. Something I also joke about with some of my friends is that I have this little neurodivergent bubble, and we have our own accommodations and we understand each other and do all this sort of thing. And then you go outside and oh yeah, that's right. Not everywhere is like this. It's quite hard to articulate, but it's I just feel that I go into these spaces and just being myself, I just don't fit. It just doesn't, it's not a vibe, I guess is what I'll say. For a really long time, particularly before I was diagnosed, when there was a social interaction and it was kind of awkward, I'd always taken on board that there was something going on within myself, or I was doing something wrong, or I was a bit weird, or I was a bit odd. And I think that although there may have been times that people may have misunderstood me because of this, I guess, belief that I was socially awkward. I still am, but I guess my perception was that I was the one that was contributing to this awkwardness or what was going on. And I think after I was diagnosed, it helped me to have a little bit of a balance of that perception. And, often I do relate a lot better with other autistic folks. Not always, we all have our differences, but I can see sometimes now that, I'm not doing anything inherently wrong. It's just that the way that I communicate and relate is quite different. And the onus isn't just on me to be able to understand the other person. It's a two-way reciprocal process. So over time, my perception of being misunderstood and understood has changed. But also I think it's helped me to have a little bit more empathy and understanding for the other person as well, and just go, okay, we're like two people showing up, trying to communicate in a way that we can both understand. And as long as we're being open and honest in that process, hopefully we can, kind of meet in the middle somewhere. I prefer to prevent if I can, rather than be reactive to situations. So the better I understand my needs and the accommodations that I need, I can have those things on board. So if I'm going out into the big wide world where I know that there may be certain things that can be challenging, particularly sensory issues and things like that. But something that I had to learn for myself is to be able to accept help and support from others. So not just showing up for myself, but allowing other people to be there with me and to share that. So like, I'm really lucky to have an awesome neurodivergent wife who, funnily enough, we were both late diagnosed and we had to muddle through that, and that was challenging. But we both understand each other's needs, and sometimes one of us is having a bit more of a challenging day, so we can step up for each other. So I think it's really important to have an understanding of how to show up for ourselves, but also it's okay to rely on supports or professionals or friends or family as well.